What is Godzilla doing in the series Monarch: The Legacy of Monsters? So this video will explain what has happened currently as of the 8 episodes regarding this series and what is in store for us in the last 2 that will be aired starting next year. Let's get to it. So to get to the bottom of it all, we have to first take a look at what has happened as of now in the series. In short, in 2015, a year after G-Day, the Randa kids are searching for their father Hiroshi Randa, and at the same time are thrown into a struggle between Monarch and his agents against Shaw and his own team of rogue operatives. Monarch, who wants to study and contain the Titan threats that are emerging at an alarming rate, while Lee Shaw wants another thing, to completely seal off the Hollow Earth portals, and in turn thinks he is helping Godzilla as well as redeeming his loss of Keiko Randa, who was dragged into one of these by the endoswarm creatures that hatched way back in 1959. Monarch thinks Lee Shaw's actions are causing a series of chain reactions that is counterintuitive, in that they are causing other Hollow Earth portals to spring up in frequency and increase in radiation output, which might lead to another MUTO or Titan emergence event, which they are trying desperately to prevent. Shaw, on the other hand, thinks Monarch is just laxed and not at all active, but just reacting passively to the Titans, which is why he has to take action by himself. The show also takes us back in time to the 1950s, where the three, that is Bill Randa, Keiko Miura and Lee Shaw, are creating the elusive Titan monitoring organization, Monarch. In these years, they have together encountered Godzilla a couple of times, including in Bikini Atoll, where the US military tried to kill him, which failed. They tried to kill him with a thermonuclear weapon, the Castle Bravo, which was unsuccessful, as they again encountered the G-Man in Monster Island near the Japanese archipelago a couple of years later. Along the road to securing Monarch as a proper agency, they also encounter other deadly titans, including the juvenile Iron Dragon in the Philippines, which was in fact their first day together, and then in 1959 they came face to face with the endoswarm creatures, which caused the life of Dr. Miura in the end. These two timelines are starting to make sense in the later episodes, in a fine way of storytelling, which is beginning to conclude in them tackling a serious world-ending threat that is 50 years in the making. So now that we are up to date with the storyline, let's come back to Godzilla and discuss what he was doing in Algeria. What is his primary role in the series as well as in the monsterverse as a whole, and end with the overarching threat in the series. Okay, Godzilla was seen to appear in 1954 firstly, in the Bikini Atolls, chronologically that is, where he was lured and blasted with a thermonuclear bomb, the Castle Bravo. This was first of all a reboot of the timeline, a soft reboot where the Shinomura is now essentially non-existent in that universe. In this first chronological sighting, he was slightly different, as he was slimmer and smaller with shorter dorsal plates, and then after the nuke, a couple of years later, he was lured by the gamma radiation in Monster Island, and when he appeared there, he seems to have grown bigger, with more prominent dorsals identical to the 2014 OG design. This shows that the nuke is in fact a helpful thing. It fed him with a lot of radiation that pushed him to grow and evolve into the next stage. Godzilla's next form was again seen in Algeria in 2015, where he emerged out of the ground where he was resting on, and here he seems to have evolved into the KOTM design, again pushed by something unexplained as of yet, to evolve and grow. It could be the MUTO Prime, the battle between him and the MUTO Prime, but it could be something else as well, as this series is kind of a soft reboot to the comics as well. So what was he doing in Algeria and how did he get there? It was all that Godzilla disappeared into the Pacific Ocean after San Francisco battle in 2014, only to reappear in 2015, a year later, in northern Africa, in a location of the Sahara Desert in Algeria. He seems to have been hibernating or resting there for quite a while, as the ground on top of him looks to be firm and stable, to a point where none of the people on top of him, the Randa kids or even Lee Shaw, noticed that they were in fact on top of him. When he awakened, it was clear that he was a bit changed, having the KOTM design with the dorsal plates that are maple leaf in shape, and then after a roar, he walked away slowly only to disappear again. But this was later explained vaguely in the series that Godzilla went into one of the Hollow Earth portals, sort of a vortex wormhole that allowed the Titans to navigate in and out of the Hollow Earth to reappear again in the surface world thousands of miles away from their original position. This thing was first described in Skull Island in 2017, the movie, which was chronologically in 1973, and then observed during King of the Monsters when Godzilla went into one of these off the coast of South America to speed up travel and reach Antarctica in a matter of hours to combat Monster Zero. So Godzilla uses these frequently, and even the other Titans do it on a lesser scale though. So as you will see in the later episodes. Okay, now that we know what Godzilla was doing in Algeria and how did he get there, let's dive into what his primary role in the series and in the Monsterverse is. So we know for a fact that he is an Alpha Titan and an apex predator as described in the previous movies. We also know that Monarch classifies him as a protector Titan, and we do know from lore that he came from the Hollow Earth, he was engaged in a Titan war against the Kongs, and that he also had his own human followers who worshipped and created a domain for him as seen in the ruins of his lair in KOTM. Now in the series, Lee Shaw, who has had a long 50-year standing one-sided relationship with Godzilla, knows more about the Titan's motives more than anyone else, including the Monarch organization. He states that Godzilla exists on Earth to regulate the Titan emergences and to drive them back to their Hollow Earth realm, to separate the human world with the monster world. This can be corroborated with the G-Man's actions in sending the Titans back into hibernation at the end of KOTM, and also his constant patrolling of the world's oceans to drive back the Titans that do come out onto the surface, which explains his aggressive attitude towards Kong, Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Mark Yeager, and also the MUTOs. Now lastly, what is the main overarching threat in the series, and is there a powerful Titan that will battle with Godzilla in the end? You know, a classic monster showdown that would be the climax to all this foreplay. Ha! So for the first question, the main threat that is looming about in the horizon is a Titan emergence event that would be caused by the actions of Lee Shaw. In such an event, Monarch fears the appearance of Titans like the MUTOs that would cause widespread destruction to the human world. Such a thing would plunge the entire planet into a state of chaos and anarchy, and not to mention the untold loss of lives. Imagine the Hollow Earth Titans like the Warbats and Camazotz appearing out of nowhere on a massive scale, along with the series Titans like the Iron Dragon, who has mysteriously disappeared in the 1950s, presumably into one of these portals. So that brings us to the final point, that is, will Godzilla battle another Titan in the series? As we have seen in the mid-season trailer, the Iron Dragon would be pitched in a one-on-one battle against the G-Man, the top G, amidst a landscape filled with emergence points, and in this case it won't be a juvenile dragon, but a massive adult specimen, similar in size to a male MUTO of 2014, but you know, with different powers. So that particular battle is assured, and yeah, Godzilla might have to fend off other Titans as well, and assert his dominance again. But which ones? Well, we will have to find out in 2 weeks' time. Now, with that we have come to the end of this video. Yeah. If you like this one, then watch this other one as well, and do check out our channel for more Monsterverse content. We might have things that you haven't seen before. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, fam.